thanks for watching Numbskull News. And today we're going to talk about realignment. Realignment in 2025 and beyond. Now, if we're going to talk realignment starting next year, what's going to happen, what could happen, we have to start first with the look-in February, the ACC ESPN look-in. I have talked about that a ton. A lot of people have. A lot of that talk slowed down, though, after the New York Times put out an article once they had a little interview with Jim Phillips back in October. This whole February, I think it's February 1st deadline, this was first put out there by, and we all found out about it because of the Florida State lawsuit. You didn't get really any kind of pushback on that until that article from the New York Times came out in October, and Jim Phillips said, well, you know, that's not really what it was. Now, what Florida State was asserting was that February 1st deadline, that ESPN has to, until then, to pick up the option to get to 2036. And what Jim Phillips is saying is that, no, there's actually two deals. All right, you got your base deal, and then you got your ACC network deal. The ACC network deal is good till 2036. The base deal, if it's not extended, will end in 2027. There's some semantics there. It's he said, she said. It really is when it comes to what Florida State is saying and what Jim Phillips and the ACC are saying. What we do know is there is a deadline in February that if they are not extended, or however you want to see it, that base deal will go away in 2027. Now, what is the base deal? The base deal, people, is all the games on ABC, all the games on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN, any of the family networks, ESPN The Ocho, all that crap. It's gone. Bye-bye. Everything goes to the ACC network. If you don't have that base deal, that's the only thing you got left is the ACC network. And that's according to the ACC. If that's correct, what a lot of people aren't talking about, because, we still have the lawsuit with Florida State and Clemson. If ESPN does not agree to extend the base deal, if what was reported by the New York Times is even somewhat correct, well, then that means that ends in 2027. That means Florida State is proven right. That puts two huge bullets in the guns of Florida State and Clemson as far as those lawsuits, and winning them and getting out of the conference. Now, according to that article by the New York Times, they said, well, the industry expects ESPN to pick that up and extend it. The industry? What is... I hate it when they do that crap. I hate it when they want to... The industry... You're saying there's a handful of people in the industry that expect that, right? Maybe some experts within the industry. Now, you may have some people that say, well, hold on. Florida State and Clemson, let's say ESPN does not. Even though, the industry is supposed to... says that the ESPN will extend it. Let's say they don't. And then that puts Florida State and Clemson in the catbird seat. Well, at that time, a lot of people think, well, then the ACC will just come to the table. A settlement will be reached between all three, and they'll figure it out. Again, I've said this before, the ACC cannot afford a settlement. Because I don't care what they work out, without Florida State, without Clemson, what kind of money are you going to get out of the ACC network without those monster fan bases? You're kind of screwed. That's all I'm saying. You're kind of screwed. Because that creates a domino effect where you're not just losing money on the ACC network, you're losing money on corporate sponsorships, you're losing money on the CFP, you're losing, probably money on the NCAA tournament. You're losing all kinds of money. It's not just one thing. It affects the whole damn conference. And that's a problem. And this is why there were rumors of third-party talks between Louisville and the Big 12. Because if those two are gone, they know it's only a matter of time before Miami tries to get the hell out of there. Possibly UNC tries, looks around maybe. So instead of waiting around for what those other guys are going to do, just like what Colorado did once UCLA took off, Colorado started third-party talks for about 8 or 9 months with the Big 12 because they knew there was going to be a big problem and they didn't trust what was going on in the Pac. Louisville's kind of the same way. They see trouble coming, and if those two get out of there, Louisville's getting the hell out of there. Mark my freaking words. They will be the Colorado. And there was also rumors of Florida State talking to the Big 12. Third-party talks. Of course. Nothing, no paper trail. None of that. But how realistic is that? Well, it could happen as far as just a place to land if it takes too long or is too much to work out with the SEC or the Big Ten. Florida State needs a soft landing spot. The Big 12 could provide that for a little while. The Big 12 is also looking into what? Private equity. Now, they will say, hey, this isn't really about realignment with private equity. And to an extent, that is true. Brett Yormark has said that, and to an extent, that is true. He can't talk about any kind of expansion targets, or anything else. Outside of we're open for business, he cannot talk about anything else. Lawsuits are a real thing. So that's all you're going to get from him. The SEC and the Big Ten, they take it a step further. We're not interested in anybody. We're fine where we are. If you want to believe that, go ahead. But I'm pretty sure that's what both of their law departments have told them to say. Hey, you're not interested in jack. Because the Big Ten wasn't interested in Oregon and Washington. I mean, it was just, remember that? It was just ghosts, whispers, nothing. All you heard was there were some meetings, some talks. Oregon and Washington trying. It could get nowhere with the Big Ten. All of a sudden, Colorado leaves. Hey, welcome aboard. Amazing how that shit works. But the Big 12 looks like it may be the first to jump into private equity. There are programs and schools that are unsure. I won't call anyone, from everything I've read, I haven't heard anything about a hard no, never, it's never going to happen from any of the 16 schools within the Big 12. But there are people that are unsure. They need more information or whatever it is. But I have a feeling Brett Yormark will get everybody on board. It's too important. And yes, to all of the business plans and things they have going to meet revenue sharing, things like that, of course. But another reason for private equity, regardless of the business that you're in, one of the main things that private equity does is allow and help with expansion. Helps with mergers, acquisitions. You don't think part of that private equity is going to be right there waiting for what the ACC, what happens with them? What happens with Florida State? What happens with Clemson? Will Florida State come into the Big 12 for a few years so they can go to somewhere else? Don't know. I doubt it. Maybe at first they're like, no, can't do it. And then Louisville leaves. Oh, well, the SEC, now the SEC's interested. Just like with Colorado. Wouldn't doubt it. Or all of a sudden the Big Ten's interested in something. But first we got the deadline. And then what does that do to the lawsuits? And then after what does the Big 12 do with private equity? I think it's going to happen within the next few months. And they'll be in more than a position, to be a soft landing spot for teams that are unsure about the ACC's future. If and when certain things happen in certain courtrooms across the country. But I think the proper speculation, as far as Florida State and as far as Clemson go, none of that has changed. they're getting out of there. They are going to get out of there. They're not going to work out any kind of deal with the ACC. It's not going to happen. Why would ESPN give the ACC more money to keep Clemson and to keep Florida State in line when they're already hemorrhaging money? Their parent company, Disney, is hemorrhaging money. And there's only so many Deadpool movies you could possibly have to help you with your bottom line. You keep losing money in all your movies. You're losing money on Disney Plus. They're losing their ass everywhere you look with Disney. ESPN is still profitable. However, its growth has stagnated, which means you're paying more for the SEC. You're paying more for the NBA. You're paying more for the Big 12. Sooner or later, there's a big ass freight train coming your way called the NFL. That media rights deal is going to be up. And it's nothing but huge amounts of cheddar because everything that's linear, all the networks are suffering. People used to make a shit ton of money on sitcoms or on the Grammys or the Oscars. People don't watch that shit anymore. The ratings are in the tank. The only game in town, the only real game in town left is live sports. The number one live sport is football. The number one product for football, live football, is the NFL. The number two, college ball. College ball, on every level, is worth a lot of money. On the top levels, of course, it's worth the top money. The Big 12 level, still worth a hell of a lot of money. So nothing's changed for the Big 12. They're waiting, seeing, plotting. There's also a CFP look in 2027. You think that date was an accident that Brett Yormark put that in and was approved by the Big Ten and the SEC? You think that was an accident with the ACC? What do I believe? As I said, Florida State and Clemson, they're going to get out. Now, it's up to the ACC to figure that out. You could do a controlled demolition, possibly resurrect that conference, or you can find your ass getting Pac-12, which means people get out, they jettison, you're left with a handful of teams, and you got to rebuild with a bunch of G5s, and you basically become another group of whatever number kind of conference after that. That could happen. Or you can have a controlled demolition. Teams that want out, get out. You work something back together. But you're going to need, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to work with the Big 12. A partnership, full-on merger. I don't know what it would be. But using private equity with both. Because right now, private equity's talking to the ACC, but remember, they can't do that because of Clemson and Florida State. It's not an option for them right now. And if they get out, that's going to really hurt what they can get on the open market with private equity. I mean, look at UNC's ratings. Look at Virginia's ratings. All those other next biggest brands, no one's watching this shit. I'm sorry. They don't have the ratings. I know what you're saying. Well, it's on the 5-6 games of UNC is on the ACC network, and that doesn't get reported. Why? Because the ratings suck. If they were great ratings on the ACC network, the ACC would put that out. ESPN would put that out. Somebody would put that out if the ratings were badass. 6, 7, 800,000 viewers per week, per game. 1 million, whatever, over 1 million. That would be reported. But we all know why it's not reported. Because it's embarrassing. So why does UNC have 5 or 6 games on the ACC network? Because they're expendable. It's an expendable brand. You can just cast to the ACC network. You're not going to do that with 5 or 6 Florida State games. You're not going to do that with 5 or 6 Clemson games. You're not going to do that with 5 or 6 Miami games. Hell, I doubt they have Louisville out there that much. They get too good of ratings. And that's the problem with a lot of those ACC teams. A lot of the media feels that those brands are lacking a little something. They're lacking a little something. The Big 12 has no blue bloods. None. Zero. We don't have a Florida State. We don't have a Clemson. We don't have a Miami. You could say we got a Colorado. I would say we have a Coach Prime. That's one guy's responsible for all that hype. One guy is rebuilding that program. And when he does leave, it'll be a pretty good ratings draw once he's gone. But he's brought that. It's not because we have Colorado. They weren't shit before Prime got there. They were in the doghouse with the ratings before Prime got there. Including Colorado, we still have 6 teams to get over 1 million viewers a week. That's not all because of Colorado. I mean, that's where we are. The ACC, look at it. Take away Florida State. Take away Clemson. Take away Miami. How many teams are averaging over 1 million viewers per week? 1. This year, 1. What would have been last year? 1. Well, let's be fair. Possibly 2. I think Louisville last year was over 1 million viewers per week. And I believe Duke was. Amazingly, Duke was over 1 million. Not this year. They fell quite a bit. UNC in the doghouse. Everybody else in the shithouse. That's where we are with it, gang. So without big, dependable viewership, and without those big brands, the ACC's in a big freaking hurt. Now, would the Big 12 want to do a merger? I don't know. A partnership? Again, I don't know. I mean, it kind of excites me as a fan of the Big 12. I don't think I would mind the ACC surviving. Now, maybe not with Florida State and Clemson, but with everybody else. Maybe not Miami, but with everybody else. Could you work something out? I don't know. Or would the Big 12 just let you die off and take some of your teams that they want, just like the Pac-12? I don't know. But the Big 12's getting set up, getting ready for whatever comes next. So it's going to be tough times for the ACC in 2025. That's my prediction, starting in February. So let's keep a lookout on what ESPN does. That's going to determine a lot of things and the way a lot of things go. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.